The silence before extinction is always the same. No roars, no battles, just the quiet breathing of a world that doesn't know it's about to die. 6 million years ago, as the first proto-humans took their trembling steps across the African savanna, the earth was already writing its next chapter in blood. Imagine standing in that ancient twilight, watching shadows move through grass taller than trees. Could you hear it? The low rumble that meant death was walking nearby, not on two legs like you, but on four massive pillars that could crush your entire lineage with a single step. This was the age of the megafauna, when giants ruled a world our ancestors could barely survive in. Saber-toothed cats, the size of modern lions, prowled territories spanning continents. Ground sloths stood 20 feet tall, their claws capable of splitting trees or splitting anything else that dared approach their young. And in the grasslands of Africa, where our story truly begins, something far more terrifying was stirring. The Dinophilis, the false saber-tooth, was perfecting the art of human hunting. Paleontologists call it the specialist killer of early hominids, and the fossil record tells a story written in punctured skulls and shattered bones. These weren't random attacks. They were systematic, calculated. The Earth's first serial killer had found its perfect prey: us. But here's what keeps researchers awake at night. Why did these apex predators suddenly vanish? Why did creatures that had dominated for millions of years simply disappear? The answer lies buried in layers of sediment that most scientists don't want to discuss publicly, because what they found challenges everything we thought we knew about survival, adaptation, and the true nature of extinction events. Deep in the Pliocene geological record, there's evidence of something that happened so quickly, so catastrophically, that it makes the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs look gentle by comparison. Climate data from 6 million years ago reveals temperature fluctuations so extreme they would have flash-frozen tropical forests in hours and turned polar ice caps into steam. But this wasn't gradual climate change. This was systematic atmospheric warfare on a planetary scale. Ocean cores show chemical signatures that match no known volcanic activity, no asteroid impact, no solar event in recorded history. Something else was reshaping the planet, something that left its fingerprints in every fossil bed from that era. The early hominids who survived this period, our direct ancestors, show evolutionary adaptations that appeared impossibly fast. Enlarged brain cases, refined tool-making capabilities, social structures complex enough to outsmart predators that had ruled the food chain for eons. These weren't gradual improvements refined over millions of years. They were quantum leaps that violated every principle of natural selection. What could force evolution to accelerate at such an unnatural pace? What environmental pressure was so intense that it literally rewired the human genome in a geological instant? Recent excavations in the Rift Valley have uncovered something that mainstream archaeology refuses to acknowledge. Beneath the standard fossil layers, there are others, deeper ones. Layers that contain the remains of creatures that shouldn't exist alongside early humans. Giants that make the known megafauna look like house pets. Bone structures so massive and so alien that they've been quietly moved from public museums to private research facilities. But the most disturbing discovery isn't what these ancient beings were. It's what killed them, because scattered among their remains are tools, weapons, technology that our ancestors shouldn't have possessed for another 5 million years. The hunters had become the hunted. The prey had learned to fight back. And in that transformation, something fundamental about life on Earth changed forever. The age of giants was ending, and the age of humans was beginning. But at what cost? Scientists who study this period describe it as the Great Silence, a time when the fossil record becomes eerily quiet, as if the Earth itself held its breath. But silence can be deceiving. In the deepest caves of Africa, where our ancestors first learned to make fire and sharpen stone, The walls tell a different story. They whisper of lights in the sky that weren't stars, of ground that shook without earthquakes, of a time when the very laws of nature seemed to bend. If you want to uncover the next forbidden chapter of Earth's history, follow us. The caves remember everything. In the darkness beneath the Rift Valley, our ancestors carved their terror into stone, images that archaeologists have spent decades trying to explain away. Stick figures running from shapes that dwarf them, symbols that predate written language by millions of years, and in the deepest chambers where only the bravest ventured, drawings of something that shouldn't exist, humans wielding fire against creatures the size of buildings. But why would primitive hominids waste precious time creating art about nightmares, unless those nightmares were hunting them every single night? The fossil evidence from 6.2 million years ago tells a story of predator and prey unlike anything in Earth's history. But it's not the story you'd expect. The Australopithecus afarensis, Lucy's distant cousins, weren't just surviving alongside megafauna. They were systematically eliminating them. Bone analysis reveals tool marks on giant sloth remains, evidence of coordinated attacks on saber-toothed cats, and most disturbing of all, burn patterns on megafauna bones that suggest the controlled use of fire millions of years before humans were supposed to possess that technology. Something was teaching our ancestors to kill titans. But what? The answer might lie in the most controversial discovery in paleontological history, one that most institutions refuse to publish. In 1987, a deep mining operation in Tanzania uncovered what researchers initially thought was a massive fossil bed, but as they dug deeper, they realized they weren't looking at remains. They were looking at a structure, geometric, intentional, built from materials that don't occur naturally on Earth. The age of the surrounding rock, exactly 6.2 million years. Within this structure, they found something that defies every timeline of human evolution: manufactured tools. Not crude stone implements, but precision instruments made from alloys that wouldn't be invented until the 20th century. Alongside these artifacts were human remains, but not the primitive bones you'd expect. These skeletons showed cranial development equivalent to modern humans, embedded in rock that predates Homo sapiens by millions of years. The official report was classified, the site was sealed, and the researchers involved were reassigned to projects on different continents. But photographs leaked, and what they show challenges everything we think we know about the birth of human civilization. Here's what keeps extinction researchers awake. The megafauna didn't die from climate change, asteroid impacts, or natural selection. They died from warfare. Systematic, coordinated, technologically advanced warfare waged by creatures that looked exactly like us, but lived in an era when humans weren't supposed to exist. Carbon dating of bone fragments from across Africa reveals something impossible. The great dying of the megafauna wasn't gradual. It happened over a period of less than 50 years. Every major predator species, every giant herbivore, every creature that posed a threat to human dominance, gone, as if someone had systematically hunted them to extinction with military precision. But the most chilling discovery came from analyzing the chemical composition of these ancient bones. They contain isotopes that only occur in nuclear fallout, radiation signatures identical to those found at atomic test sites. 6 million years before humans discovered nuclear fission, something was using it as a weapon against the giants of the ancient world. The survivors of this prehistoric holocaust were the small, adaptable hominids, who learned to hide in caves and carve warnings into stone. They inherited a world cleansed of monsters, but they also inherited something else: genetic memories of the beings who had saved them, cultural echoes of advanced teachers who had appeared during humanity's darkest hour and vanished just as mysteriously once their work was complete. Archaeological evidence suggests these mysterious benefactors left behind more than just tools and weapons. They left behind knowledge. Mathematical concepts found carved into African cave walls that wouldn't be rediscovered by mainstream science until the Renaissance. Star charts showing celestial movements with accuracy that requires satellite technology to verify. And most disturbing of all, detailed anatomical drawings of creatures that went extinct 6.2 million years ago, created with a precision that suggests intimate familiarity with their biology. Who were these ancient teachers? Where did they come from? And why did they choose that specific moment in prehistory to intervene in human evolution? The answer might explain why our species alone survived the greatest extinction event in mammalian history, why we developed intelligence at a rate that violates natural law, and why, buried in our oldest myths and legends, we find stories of gods who walked among mortals, teaching them to master fire and forge weapons capable of slaying giants. But perhaps the most terrifying question isn't what happened 6.2 million years ago. It's what might happen when these mysterious benefactors decide to return. Because according to astronomical calculations based on those ancient cave star charts, their orbit brings them back to Earth every 6.2 million years. And if the math is correct, they're overdue. If you want to uncover the next forbidden chapter of Earth's history, follow us.